So it's your girl Moo Moo
and your girl Lady,
and we're back with another episode of
One Night a Week. Hello, y'all. We missed y'all. I'm so sorry. Everybody's asking what happened to One Night a Week. Nothing happened. We've been working multiple nights a week, trying to rebrand and trying to give you all that we have from the beginning.
We had a photo shoot today.
Yeah.
We were trying to hold it and wait for y'all, but we were just so excited. The photo shoot went well.
A blast.
We have behind the scenes of the photo shoot. Like some of y'all might want to see behind the scenes from the photo shoot. So we'll get that. I'm so glad, and I want to thank y'all for supporting us. I know we had some trials and tribulations. We wasn't uploading like we were supposed to, but we had a lot going on. We had to get a new camera.
Life was life, and that's why we just decided to just rebrand at the very beginning. While our grand opening is going to be the rebrand, you could never be too perfect. Things could never be too good, and so that's why we sat back and put some things together, and we are going to conclude season 1 in the next episode. We were going to give you 8 episodes for season 1, so we have one more episode after this to give you. And then when we come in season 2, baby, we won't be stopped. Season 2, it's already phenomenal. Like, you guys are going to just like, whoa, that's Moo, that's Lady. Yes, we come. Yes, One Night a Week is coming. We're building our team. We're building a huge team, phenomenally behind us, production and everything. I mean, we work hard.
I also want to say, I want to cut you off. I want to thank our production team because they've been with us through thick and thin. They worked hard, especially today during the photo shoot. I've never seen a photo shoot go so smoothly. Like, everybody worked together. We got things done. Shout out to our photographer,
Ashley. Shout out to Ash. Rolling Rose Photography.
We're going to put it in the video. We're going to
Rolling Rose Photography. That's our girl. She is top dog. You better believe it. She is great at what she does, and you can tell that it is her passion. Her feeds are great.
I love you,
Ash. You're A1 girl. Oh, no, you will always be a part of the Oh, no team. Yeah, it will not go wrong with booking Rolling Rose Photography. Let's give it back. I love to work with locals. I love to give back to my community. I call it feeding folks churn. That's how we get down. I'm going to feed your child. If you need it, I'm going to use you before I use any huge corporate companies. I'm sorry. Because that's how you start. You start from the bottom, and we are definitely starting from the bottom. And we're going to use all we have. So we're thinking about book bags, socks, all those types of things for our teammates and to get everything, to get our brand out here, because we're here and we're non-stop. We're coming and we're not stopping. I also want to thank everybody who's been in support on the outside, a part of our team. My mom, she cooked up, whipped up something in the kitchen after the photo shoot. Thank you to my mom. Yeah, so it's a big thing for us, and I'm proud. I'm investing so much time and energy. We both are, but I think my mind is going 1,000 miles a minute trying to make this what we want it to be. Again, we are the podcast that talks about getting into everything, and what matters to us is what our viewers and what our teammates would like to hear. So we're going to get a website coming up. Season 2 is just going. I know it's going to be bread to butter, baby. Watch. Today's topic, though. We also have some other links that are going to go in the bottom. The intro song that you heard today, that is from another local artist, Kofi Mensa. So if you're out of Charlotte, we're going to link him too in the bottom, because we like to give everybody their props. We love to give everybody their credit, because that's how people grow. That's how businesses grow. That's how passions grow.
Support one another.
We have to fuel the fire. It takes a village, not just for children, but for adults, for the world. Our topic today, you've probably seen some of our bloopers from this episode that we tried to record
multiple times.
A million. But it's on transracial adoption. And stop before you say something, because I've already been here. Didn't you already do a topic like that before? Or didn't you do that topic before? That was queer parenting. And again, we talk about it and everything. So queer parenting could be a blended family. Transracial adoption is specifically speaking about adoption and adopting children outside of your race, outside of the parents' race. And that's a phenomenal topic. It's important, especially in today's world, because there's a lot of pros, there are a lot of cons, and again, these are just our opinions. We will bring some fact-finding information, and anytime we bring fact-finding information, we load the links on social media so that we can give credit for this information and insight. I don't want anybody any problems. I don't want to sue. So we give credit where that's due to. If you found some information and it's factual, we will fill it out, but we're gonna till it out.
We don't want to
Exactly. No tanks. No tanks.
No money for that.
So we watched a documentary called Off and Running. It came out in 2009, and it was based off of transracial adoption. This documentary can be found on Hoopla. I believe it's on Prime somewhere in certain states. You can find it on Prime, but it was very informative. It's about a black girl who was adopted by a Jewish woman, and she has a brother who was biracial, who was adopted by another Jewish woman, and her parents are actually queer parents, and they have an Asian younger brother that the two women adopted together. The main character is the African American girl, and I'm trying to remember what her name was. Avery is her name. That's right. And so Avery had been adopted as a very young, as an infant, I believe, or close to a toddler by this Jewish lady. And she was raised with her biracial brother and her Asian brother all these years. And as she got older, she wanted to know who she was, where she came from. And it was obvious, she wasn't raised around too many black people, but she was a black girl. So at that, as a little girl, it didn't matter to her, but as she got older, things began to change and questions started to be asked. So it gave us various positions in the documentary on parenting, how the parents perceived Avery's curiosity, how her friends, her whole social circle changed because she went from just being a little girl to a young African American woman. And so there are certain things culturally that her parents could not answer, and that's not to be held against them, but they couldn't answer those questions, and it caused a lot of rebellion in Avery because then her peers started asking questions, and Avery didn't have all the answers. So she sought out her biological mother, she sought out she spoke to her biracial adopted brother, and it was different. Even the biracial brother, he didn't have an issue with being adopted, and he didn't want to know anything about his past. He was fine living in the world, growing up with his two Jewish female parents. And it was just, I think it was such a great documentary because it came off under one aspect, but it showed various aspects of the documentary. And I think that's what we needed. It even goes back to the Queer Parenting podcast, the Queer Parenting topic that we had back in episode 3, I want to say. Because they were two queer women raising these children that were outside of their race.
I feel like most children that are adopted when they're younger and they grow up raised by another race, I feel like they always going to wonder, where are my real parents? Where did I really come from? I know this is my parent, my father, because they raised me, but where did I really come from? And I feel like most of the time, it can be a positive thing, trying to reach out and figure out where you come from. And sometimes, some things just need to be left alone. Sometimes, things happen for a reason, and so when you go digging for stuff, it can cause a lot of trauma, it can cause a lot of hurt, and it can cause you to get conflicted and confused.
Right, because with Avery, I remember some of the conflict that she endured was that her mom already had 5 or 6 children before her.
Yeah, that's what I was
and I think she had about 5 or 6 half siblings by her biological mom, and her mom kept all of those children, raised them, and she only got rid of Avery. So that already, that was one of the first conflictual targets that she spoke about. It was about I remember her writing her biological mom a letter and saying what happened when it came to me. Why was I, why was I basically thrown out? If you kept the rest, how did I end up in states away? And so that was traumatic for her. And you just said, Moo, that there are a lot of questions asked. What happened? Who are my real parents? I think as a whole, when it comes to adopting children, even if you adopt children that are of the same race and ethnicity,
yes,
once they get older, things start to change, looks change, and it could be a family that's the same race. Children that are adopted or adults that were adopted are going to ask, where's my bloodline? What happened? So imagine being raised by someone outside of your race and having that question on top of other questions. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that transracial adoption should be banned or that it should not occur, because I'm thankful for anyone who's willing to support a child and be a parent. I don't feel like parenting should be black or white. I don't feel like parenting should be, it shouldn't be a racial divide, and it should not be based off of who you are or your culture. I think all things that come together good are great for children. But there are things to think about when you are adopting outside of your race.
Yes, it is. I do just want to follow up on what she said. I feel like every child needs to be loved and nurtured and taken care of, no matter the color of the parent's skin.
Or the child's skin.
Or the child's skin. It doesn't matter the skin color. We're all human at the end of the day, and every child needs to be loved and taken care of. Just like, it doesn't matter. And when it comes to transracial adoption, I feel like if you're going to adopt a child of another race, take the time to learn how to do their hair. Take the time to get to learn what interests them. Take the time to really get to know them for themselves and not to try to raise them in this image that you want them to be raised in. Because that can also cause a lot of conflict. Just like one of my favorite movies that still to this day is my favorite movie, when I really found out what the backstory behind it, it made me think differently about transracial adoption, but I still feel like it should be happening.
You can still support it.
I can support it a little bit because, things happen and everybody's not the same. For instance, The Blind Side. That was the movie The Blind Side, when it first came out, everybody thought it was some heartfelt,
these white families taking in big long country boy and making him, motivating him to be this great football star.
Something in life just for y'all to use him as a
allegedly.
I don't want to, I don't want no problem. I don't want to get sued.
Allegedly. So
allegedly, y'all use him as a cash cow.
Yeah, Blind Side was a movie that it was a catch-22 for me, because when it first came out, I was happy because my girl Sandra Bullock was in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love everything Sandra. But then
she had to play that part.
I hate that. But she did a good job. But it was like, when I found out about what it ensued, at first I was like, oh no, wait a minute. White family being a hero to a black child.
And
I said,
okay, see that.
Thank you. And it brought me back to losing Isaiah. Okay. You did your thing in that girl.
Okay.
And what made me watch Blind Side was the fact that I did watch Losing Isaiah, because at first I was like, oh, I can already kind of feel this is something underlying. But I was like, well, shoot, I watched Hallie do her thing, so I'm going to watch Sandra.
Yeah.
And Blind Side is an older movie, not as old as Losing Isaiah, but once I watched it, I fell in love with it. And now, about 2 years ago, things started coming out, and this football player let it be known that he was adopted by these people, and they promised him all these things.
Yes, they did.
And now he is an adult, and he has not gotten paid. I think even for letting him use his story in the movie, he was guaranteed a certain amount of money, and he still has not received all of his allotment. And it was a lot of things. And then it's a contract floating around that basically stated that they were going. The family, the white family, offered the story to be presented, and with knowingly that it was just going to be basically about them saving his kids. So they pushed the story, and so now this adult man, who we all know now because the movie was about him, they didn't do him right. Yeah, so that was another thing. That was supposed to be transracial adoption, but now that I'm finding out that they really did not adopt him, it's making me have the side eye. Yeah, some things, and that's really what made me bring up this topic because, as you know, I am a mother of a blended family. Yeah, it made me a little skeptical. What made me interested in transracial adoption is because I have a blended family. I have beautiful children, and I'm known to always support children and adult children's children, and because I just believe in that. That's just some personal thing that I believe in, and so I always pay attention to topics surrounding children, especially children that are being involved in kinship, children that are being involved in anything outside of their biological family relationships. So what I'm seeing here, and this is just a Google poll, Michael Oher, that's his name, Michael Oher. He was a former NFL player. He's no longer playing, he's retired now. His story was the basis for the movie The Blind Side. He filed a lawsuit. So Michael Oher filed a lawsuit against Sean and Leanne Toy. That was who Leanne and Sandra played. Michael Oher is claiming that they exploited him, that the toys exploited him. They exploited his name, his image, and likeness for financial gain by falsely portraying themselves as his adoptive parents and using his story. Get this part, y'all. The toys earn millions off The Blind Side.
And I can tell you exactly down to the dollar how much they made, $300 million.
They made $300 million off this man.
And they're not even his adoptive parents.
No, they did not adopt him. And in the story, they made it like in the movie, they made it like that they adopted him. Y'all, please go watch The Blind Side if you have not, and if you have, watched it again.
And do you notice is you can really rarely find The Blind Side. You can rarely watch it anymore.
Yeah.
If you do, you have to pay
astronomical amount of money. Yeah. Because they are currently still being sued from what I'm seeing. They even have a breakdown of the lawsuit. Again, I said this is a Google research. Thank you, production, for getting this to me. The story can be found on ABC. It can be found on ESPN. CNN, CBS, yes, we'll link that.
Either this box or this box.
Yep. But the claim also says that the toys tricked him into signing a conservatorship agreement in 2004. That was 21 years ago. They presented it as an adoption, and they used this agreement to control his finances and profit from his story, including the movie The Blind Side and related speaking engagements. So they've been fighting. Michael has been battling this since 2023 from what I'm seeing.
So 2 years now.
2 years, and this movie came out 21 years ago. So they've become wealthy off of this man, and he was able to gain NFL stardom, but still, pay that man what you owe that man. We didn't need to get off topic and get into the toys, I'm calling them toys. And get into the toys, but that was just a focus of transracial adoption, and that's the reason why we're talking about the pros and the cons of it, because it can throw things off. It gives you the side eye. Another thing I wanted to talk about is, do Black people have a reason to be suspicious of interracial families? Do Black people, I'm not just going to say Black people, I want to say people of color or people in the BIPOC population. So Black, brown, half, whatever. Anyone in the BIPOC population, do we have a reason to be suspicious of interracial families? I want to say interracial adopted family. Not if your mom and your dad, your biological mom and dad is this color, that race, and they make a baby, and you're genetically bound to that person. That's not what we're talking about right now. We are saying, do people of color have any reason to be suspicious of interracial adoptions or transracial adoptions? When I look at one of the sources that we have, I see a summary that says whites have a long history of exploiting notions of Christianity, paternalism, familial protection, and color blindness to provide cover for racial coercion, labor exploitation, physical, psychological, and sexual abuse, and liberal virtue signaling at the expense of black children. Summing all that up is basically slavery. When you sum all that up, I'm going to come at you with raw terminology, slavery. And that is one of the top reasons why transracial adoption, specifically white parents to black children, it gives people the slave master slave affect mentally. Some people. That is not always my first thought, but I have to speak for everyone as a whole. That's one thing we do on All. We speak in general. Most of the time, I'll throw my opinion out here and there, but I'm speaking generally. It also says that black folks often view interracial and transracial adoption as suspect and manipulative gestures that infuse generosity, white saviorism, love, and racial domination. That came from Stacey Patton. Stacey Patton is an author of It's Okay to Question White Evangelicals Who Adopt Black Kids. So that I will put that link in there too so that you can check into that. But that is one of the predominant things that that was one of the first questions that was brought up when we brought this topic up. Again, we'll put the source link at in the biography somewhere. And then I think this is a fun fact to know that the comedian Tommy Davidson, I know him from In Living Color because I'm a little seasoned, so I know him from In Living Color. And he's done a few other movies, and he's also attributed to the stand-up world. But he was raised by a white family. Comedian Tommy Davidson is a black man who was raised by a white family. And there's a small interview about him being raised by white people. We'll add that link as well. So it goes on and on and on. And I don't want people to think that the only thing we're focused on in transracial adoption is white families adopting black kids. That transracial can be anything. I mean, in the rural town that I live in now, I see a lot of black parents with white children. So, I see that as far as adoption, I see the foster care population, and it's very ginormous where I live at now. And so you will see a lot of black families, black mothers, black fathers, queer fathers, queer mothers raising black children or keeping them in foster care in this area, the area that I live in. So transracial adoption is something that I'm looking at as a whole. But when you research it, the first thing that comes up is white parents and black kids, because when transracial adoption first became a real big thing, it was either a white family adopting a black kid or a white family adopting a Chinese kid or a child of Asian descent. And so that's why the focus was so strong. But I think now, with the world being so blended, sexually, gender-wise, ethically, it's anybody. The same thing could be thought about with black parents that raise white kids. You hear a lot of times, you'll see an adult white person just sometimes from their twang or how they talk or how they cook. The saying is, they were raised by black people, or they hung out with black people. So that also brings you into the cultural ethics of being transracially adopted. And that was one of the things that Avery...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I remember a show we were just watching, and the paralegal, she was adopted by wealthy Caucasian families, and she didn't tell anybody when she first started until one of her Caucasian co-workers seen it. And she was like, those are my parents. And she was like, what? Those two rich, wealthy Caucasian people are your parents? And you're... So she's like, yeah, I graduated from this school. I did this, I did that. and she told her coworker, like, please don't tell the others. I don't want them to look at me differently because I'm African American and I was raised by some rich, wealthy people, which is, in my opinion, I wouldn't be mad, baby. I was adopted by some wealthy people.
But also I'm sorry, Moo.
Another reason go ahead.
Also, though, in that TV show, you could also tell from how she acted at the firm that she was definitely raised around white people or something. And there was also a few aspects in that TV show where she was not culturally in tune with her black side. The trigger. And in the TV show, there was not an issue with her adoptive parents being white. No, it was the fact that she was not culturally knowledgeable about who she was, where she came from. And who she was a very smart African American girl who was an attorney. But what about that paralegal? I'm sorry, she was a paralegal. What was going on at that point? From that point, what happened? Like they had commentary about her hair and how she never knew how to do her hair, cooking Southern food, just different things. And not all black people know how to cook, but that was one of the pieces that they brought up in the TV show.
And that's another thing that had me alarmed. Like when she had to go to the jail and be a public defender and pick a case, mm-hmm. she would never really pick people of color cases. Mm-hmm. It would always be a Caucasian person that she picked, and she would try to fight to death for him, mm-hmm. and then she'll find the people of color, and she's like, well, he did it, so why should I try to get him this amount of time when he didn't? Like, you're getting more of a prosecutor right now than a defense attorney, like you're saying, and that kind of raised a red flag to the Caucasian girl, like, we're supposed to be defending him. We're the ones people hate, and you're buddying up with the prosecutor and all them over there. Something's not right. So when the girl told everybody, like, she's adopted, everybody looked at her like, oh, we kind of knew that. Like, it were certain things that we noticed about you, and it's like, what are the certain dangers of being raised without racial similarities?
And the name of that TV show, by the way, is called In Contempt. It is available on BET Plus. The TV show is called In Contempt, available on BET Plus. It's an older TV show. It's only one season. But it was really good to show that aspect. I also forgot to throw out another comedian Joel Kim Booster, was raised by a white family. Comedian Joel Kim Booster was raised by a white family. So that link will also be posted in the this episode's biography. There is another question that has come up. Can children who are people of color be raised to have a healthy identity by white parents? I'm gonna let that be a broad question for right now, and I want Moo to give me an answer to that, and then I'll back it with one of the sources.
No.
Well,
because let's really. Okay. You know what? I know how I get.
So why don't I just come in with our source?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna let her figure out that hard no. Okay. Can children who are people of color be raised to have a healthy identity by white parents? This goes back to Avery on Off and Running. This goes to comedian Tommy Davidson. From the resource that we use, it states that it seems that transracial adoptees don't necessarily inherit cultural fears or mythology. So basically, these white people are not really thinking about the culture. They're not thinking about the mythology of the culture. In other words, they're not thinking about the younger, our history of them being, their ancestors being slave masters and our ancestors being slaves. So it's saying that that is not necessarily what they're thinking about. In the Off and Running documentary, the older brother, he was light skinned. That the one I said was biracial. said that she, talking about Avery, who's dark skinned, feels like she's born into something, and I feel like I can create who I want to be. That's what I mentioned in the beginning, where he had no problem. Like Avery would go to him and talk to him about, oh, we were born, we were raised with our parents, and I know that I'm black, and you know that you're black, and he would make it a point to say I'm biracial. And because of that, he felt like he kind of blended in better with the parents because he had that white,
and that's why I said no, because some kids
hard no.
That some kids that are adopted by Caucasian people, that are people of color, okay, you're light skinned. I can go for being mixed. Yeah. So I have a better advantage of being adopted and being darker skinned. Some Caucasian people adopt children that are people of color. I don't understand.
You mean like more melanated?
More melanated.
Yes.
Yeah,
They're darker.
And they don't understand. Yeah, I'm Caucasian. I adopted these children. But those children are still going to have to face the same challenges that other minorities, that other melanated people have to go through when they're not around.
And that brings me to a part in the documentary as well, when Avery wanted to go visit her family, her biological family in Texas. Her mothers, her Caucasian mothers, were willing to say, yes, we will support you. If this is what you want to do, you want to go, pick up all this and get more information from your biological family, we are willing to travel with you and support you in meeting your black family. That is something that is different. And it's just the way the world is built up. I think that she was even able to get that support. I think she, from viewers, from our perspective, we're looking at it like, dang, her white parents are willing to go with her to visit her biological black family, whereas from a biological standpoint of being raised in a black family, you don't always, we wouldn't have gotten that support. Mm-hmm. If I would have been like, hey, even when sometimes going to college, I want to go to college out of the state. Most black families.
Why you gotta do that?
Why you gotta do that? That's more money. That's more money. We're not there have been times that, and more so, more in the past than the present, there are times where black people have not been as financially sound as what they are right now.
Yes.
So if she would have been raised with her black family, it was said that she probably would not have had the support to go travel and visit, but her white family was willing to support her in traveling and going to see her biological mother. And I hate that things are depicted that way when it comes to race. And that's another reason why transracial adoption is something that we have to look at, because immediately if a child is adopted by white people, it's automatically assumed, oh, they're going to have a great life. Well, white people go through things too, and so that's a very, interstructural thing that I don't agree with.
I don't mean to cut
is that white is right and
black is wrong. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. White is white and white is right and black is black. I don't agree with that.
It's a couple on TikTok, most of y'all might know, that adopted a child of color, and they're getting a lot of backlash. Like, y'all only adopted him because a couple years ago you went viral for saying something racist. So you're trying to cover your face. And y'all, the whole TikTok page is about
it's the
adopting a child of color.
So technically, it's the I have my best friend black type of.
I can't be racist. My best friend is black.
So I adopted a black child, so how am I racist?
And they don't get his hair done. He's always snotty nose. He always looks a mess on camera. And it's always, get ready with me and my adopted son. With the dark skin emoji. Why can't it just be get ready with me and my son? What?
Right. So we have a live input coming in. We have a call in from one of the viewers. Let's get the question.
Alright, hold on 1 second, and we're going to click it over to one of the viewers.
Okay, so what do you feel about people of color being raised to have a healthy identity by white parents?
Why do those people have that child if they were viral
For being
for
racist.
being racist? How they get that baby?
That's right. How did they get the baby? If they went viral, I was part of the adoption process is checking people's statuses and checking their social media. Did the agency not see?
If y'all didn't hear what the live viewer said, she's basically saying if these people went viral for being racist before,
how would they even
get
that?
that?
How do they get the baby? This is not a laughing bet. You all being familiar with this, y'all know we will cut up and start laughing.
And it's the fact that it was the wife that went viral for and the husband
stayed in the background.
But wanted to adopt the baby. He went in the background, he went and adopted the baby. Came home like,
here you go. Here goes the baby.
This is our son.
Well, see, no. With that,
and I'm just like, and ever since this, I understand. I'm glad you adopted a child, no matter the color, but please do his hair. If you want to adopt a child, learn how to do that hair. Every child, every race is different.
And that's where we go with the cultural competence. If you are going, even, and I'm not even just going to keep making this about black children. They had, in Off and Running, they had a little Asian baby. What he needed, what was up with that? Are you all studying into their culture? Are you able to tell them anything? Because when they're grown or before and they're teenagers, the world is cruel now. People will the first thing people do now is make you recognize you're different. So what are you going to say to this Asian child when these people are asking him about his Asian culture? I just don't agree with that. I'm not saying that I do not agree with transracial adoption, but I do not agree with the fact that you adopt this child, you raise them as your own, and it's like, forget about where they come from. Forget about even medically. There are certain diseases and disorders that are more common in Asians, African Americans, things like that, minorities, period. So that is very vital and very important about when it comes to knowing who you're raising. And when I say know who you're raising, I mean get in tune with their culture. Me personally, I would not adopt transracially. I don't even believe I would foster transracially without looking into things based off what disorders are more common in children of this color. What type of holidays do children of this culture celebrate? You just need to be educated, and I don't think
let them know their background. I'm sorry,
no, you're fine.
This is my last thing I have to say on this because I said what I said, and y'all know how I do. But you're gonna take over after this. But if you're going to adopt a child outside of your race, please teach them their background and their history. Please keep them in the loop, like we say, keep them in the loop, but they hear their cultural.
The adoptee,
yes, please let them know where they come from.
The adopted parent needs to be educated culturally. The adopted parent needs to be educated culturally before you even get involved, so that you will be more aligned. So that's what we talk about. What challenges the child faces, and that's one of them. They may face racism in both subtle and open ways. I saw something. There was a YouTube short that I watched yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it was based on the country singer Kane Brown. Most people know him as a very authentic artist, and I feel that he is. He may not look as biracial to some, but he in fact is biracial. And yesterday I learned by watching the YouTube short, that Kane Brown's father is of African American descent. His mother is white. Kane Brown's father has been incarcerated since I think he was born. So he had no exposure to his black side. He was raised by his mother's white side all his entire life. His wife is even white. Hello. I am back with the continuation from episode 7, we were talking about transracial adoption. I don't believe that Kane Brown is adopted, but he is of biracial ethnicities. His father, from what I heard on a YouTube broadcasting, he did an interview. I don't remember who he interviewed with, but he is the son of an African American male and a Caucasian female. Kane Brown's father was not in his life. He was due to his incarceration, and so Kane Brown was raised predominantly by his mother's side, who's all white. Kane Brown, if you don't know, is a phenomenal artist, and most people see him as just white. Some people can say, "Oh, he looks like he looks like he's mixed with something." He is. His father's black, but because he was raised by his mother's side, who's white, he had to grow up around a lot of passively aggressive racial terms, slurs, whatever it may be. He did say something in the interview about during the summertime, spring, warmer weather, his skin, his complexion would get darker, and he would get a lot of comments, and most of them were from family members. So that's, just bringing in that small piece. That is why transracial adoption is another important piece, because racism, it basically is a universal, stagnant piece that goes on everywhere, whether it's your blood family, adoptive family, and that's one of the reasons why transracial adoption brings in that piece of being raised with parents or children that are outside of your race, and why it's important that even if you do decide to parent a child outside of your race that you are adopting or fostering or kinship, whatever, be true to as much of their culture as you possibly can. At least try to learn whatever you don't know. Feel free to educate yourself, because I personally don't feel like it's okay to just raise a child up and say, I'm this race or this is my belief, so that's their belief. I don't even raise my own children that way. I'm open to their beliefs. Once they're of age and they express their beliefs, I'm open to their differences, because they are humans and they are important as well. I'm not telling you how to parent, but personally, I think you all need to, educate yourself. I think it's important for these children, whether they're black, white, Asian, from Russia, wherever, they need to know about their culture. I think that is all that I really have to relay as far as our take on transracial adoption. I did say that this is a continuation from the very first part of episode 7, and I just wanted to throw in those few pieces. We have one more episode left for season 1, and that will be out within a week. I appreciate you all having patience with us. I can't say that enough. We have some fun stuff coming ahead for season 2. Check out our promo videos. Check out our merchandise. We also now have a new website for ONAL. We're going to post that in the YouTube link. And on all of our social media bios, we will put our website link, and that is a more consistent way of you all being able to reach out to us, communicate with us, and order our merch. We'll have new designs coming up soon. To conclude my take on transracial adoption, I feel like it is a more positive thing than negative. I know that you probably, after listening to this podcast, you will feel like we've listed so many negatives, but I think it's a two and twofold. At the end of the day, parenting is not easy, let alone parenting someone who's not your biological child, because of the unknowing. And I have empathy and I have more support for anybody that chooses to take on being a parent. Being a parent means that you are a leader. Being a leader means that you have to listen. And that goes without saying, whether you're adopting, whether you're fostering, whether you're babysitting. It's a lot to be in charge and responsible for someone who is depending on you for everything. Do not let race be a factor. Do not let cultural differences be a factor. Parents, we have to listen to our children. Children, you should listen to your parents. And most of all, everyone needs to listen to themselves. I appreciate everyone, and I am so thankful for the team that I have with One Night a Week, or Oh No. We are coming through next season bigger and better than ever, and I cannot wait. Look out for the website posting. Look out for the rest of the online platforms. Please, please, please like, comment, subscribe. Send it to your mama. Send it to your daddy. Send it to your friends. Send it to your colleagues, because we're here and we're not going anywhere. I'm sending love, light, justice, peace to everyone. See, and then the mop and all that in the background. I don't want that anymore. I'm ready to give you some professionalism. Again, say no to drugs. Be kind. Parent, listen, adopt, foster, whatever. Race should not matter. We should all love each other, and more so than anything, love yourself. This is it for season 1, episode 7.2, Transracial Adoption on Oh Now Podcast. It's your girl, Lady, the host, One Night a Week, and we're out.